I realized that for me, there was just so much ugliness in the world, and there still is, that I like to focus on the beauty of it, and I like to focus on not only the outer beauty, but the inner beauty, and just being a, a kind person and a nice person. And I don't know, if I can put that out into the world, if I can put out a video and be kind and put out positive energy, then, I mean, that's all I could ask for. Hello and welcome. I'm Ashley, and oh my gosh, you guys, I am so excited. The 90s fluffy hair is making a comeback. Like, thank goodness. This is hair news we can all get on board with. I think we all needed a little bit of good news after the whole middle part debate. I mean, come on. You cannot argue with this side part. So in honor of this fantastic trend, I decided let's do a get ready with me, create a 90s inspired makeup look. So many 90s inspired makeup looks are matte. I can't really get that on board with matte looks. They just don't look that great on me. I don't tend to gravitate towards them, probably because I have drier skin. I've hit 30, so I'm not trying to put a ton of powder, especially around my eyes, just not trying to do that. So I pulled out one of my favorite 90s makeup books by Kevyn Aucoin, and we are going to be inspired today by one of his shimmery 90s makeup looks. I'm also gonna answer some questions that you guys sent to me on Instagram, as well as here on my YouTube community tab. I love the makeup. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I am living for this 90s fluffy hair, which, by the way, if you're wondering how I got my 90s fluffy hair, I just did a classic blowout using my Dyson Airwrap. I absolutely love that thing. I use the volumizing brush for my blowout. It gives me awesome volume. It's very airy and bouncy, and my hair is naturally curly and fine, so when I blow it out, it will do this for me quite easily. So today we're gonna play around with some makeup, do something fun. One of my very favorite things to do with makeup, and something that I used to do all the time years ago, was like use my makeup books. I have tons of makeup books. I've talked about this one before. It's one of my favorite. This is Making Faces from Kevyn Aucoin. I'm gonna be trying to kind of use this makeup look. This is his shimmer look. I'm gonna be trying to use this as kind of like my inspiration. Kevyn Aucoin, I've spoken about a couple times, but he was like so huge in the 90s as a makeup artist, and a lot of the supermodel makeup looks from the 90s that are just iconic now, several of those are his looks that he pioneered. So we're gonna use this look as a base, and I'm gonna answer some questions that you guys had for me on Instagram and here on YouTube, which, let me tell you what, that's a dream come true, because when I first started YouTube, I could not wait. I first started in March of last year, so it's almost been a year. I could not wait to have enough of a community on here that people wanted to ask me questions. Like, it was my dream to be able to do like Q&A videos. A lot of the products that I'm using today, I just put on the Watermelon Glow Niacinamide Dewdrops. Several of the products that I'm using today are favorites, so that video has already gone up. I will link it in the eye and down below in case you want to check out my February favorites. I found a lot of things that I'm just obsessed with. One of them is this Tatcha Dewy Skin Cream. I've gone through 3 of these little trial ones, and I've ordered the big value size because I am in love with this. It is so silky and just absolutely fantastic. I now understand why people are so obsessed with it. It is. All right, let's jump into the questions. We're gonna start with one from the lovely Kate the Great Beauty, who of course is just the best friend a girl could ask for, and gave me one of the best questions, which is, who is a celeb other people think is hot, but you don't? This is juicy. I have a couple. Please do not cancel me for this, but I think probably the one that shocks most people is Bradley Cooper. I don't find Bradley Cooper attractive. I know you might be shocked, but I can explain why pretty well, I think. I feel like Bradley Cooper looks like Robin Williams, but if Robin Williams was way less funny and worked out a ton, like way too much, more than I would prefer. To me, like if you work out way too much, that says to me, you don't have time for me, and I'm needy. The second one that I think gets people is George Clooney. I don't think George Clooney he just doesn't do it for me. I don't find him that attractive. I think that he was cute back in the Facts of Life and on ER. He was cute then, but then he spent so many years just, I guess, actively not wanting to settle down. I don't know. That's not that attractive to me. I don't know. There are certain people that if I latch onto something about their personality that I just don't like, it ruins it for me. The last one I have is probably not that shocking because I think a lot of people agree just based off the fact that he is in a cult, allegedly. Do not sue me, Scientology. Do not sue me. Allegedly. Some would allege. I'm not saying I am alleging. I'm saying some very smart people who are experts in cults would allege that it's a cult. Okay, Tom Cruise. He has not been cute since Risky Business, regardless of Scientology. He just does not. Doesn't do it for me at all. Ooh, another question I really like. Your favorite OMG snack? I love to snack, so this is a really great question. Great. I swear Invisalign gives me this, just some weird little speech tics. One of my favorite snacks is probably just like a good old fashioned charcuterie board. I love meat and cheese. I especially like Spanish cheeses. I like I was gonna say Spanish meats. Like Iberico, jamón de Iberico is one of my favorites. It's crazy expensive, but like if you get some good jamón de Iberico, it just melts in your mouth. It's amazing. So I love any kind of like meat and cheese board. I'm a big fan of. If I'm looking for something like quick, I might go for cheese curds. Like I warm up some cheese curds and dip them in marinara sauce. That is definitely an OMG snack. You can't eat too much of it though, because you will not feel good afterwards. Probably the last one I can think of that's just like such a standby for me is pizza toast. So I'll take a piece of bread, put a little bit of marinara on it. I'll toast it first, put a little bit of marinara on it, a little bit of shredded mozzarella, and then put some pepperonis on top and stick it in the oven for a couple minutes. And that is divine. My grandmother used to make that a lot for me, so it's one of my just favorite go-to snacks. Occasionally I'll get a little bit fancier with my snacks. Like the other day I roasted some tomatoes and blueberries on a sheet pan in the oven. Then I put them on a little bit of toast with some ricotta, and I drizzled balsamic glaze on top, put a little bit of Parmesan cheese, and it was delicious. Oh, and chives, a little bit of chives. It was just really good. Ooh, we have another good one. What is your definition of love? I have like two favorite definitions of love. I did not come up with either of these definitions, but throughout my life, I think the two that I have found to be the closest to properly defining love, because I mean, how can you define something like that? It's pretty difficult, right? So the first is from the Bible, the Christian Bible, and it's probably like the most quoted ever Bible verse. It's 1 Corinthians 13. That's the one that's like, love is patient, love is kind, it does not boast. That's a pretty popular one, I know, especially amongst Christians. You'll hear it at pretty much like every wedding. The other one I really like is she was a French-Cuban author, Anaïs Nin, and she once wrote, "What is love but acceptance of the other, whoever he is?" And I think that one really resonates with me a lot too now. I think that that's a big part of love, is accepting someone for who they are and, you know, loving them for who they are. I don't think you can love someone if you don't accept them. I don't think you can. I don't think you can. I think that's such a big part of love, especially now that I'm a mom. I, love this tiny person that I gave birth to, and I love her exactly how she is, and I wouldn't want her to be any different. And I think I'm always very aware that I don't want to change her, and I want her to be able to be herself and authentically live her life in whatever her version of happiness is. It's crazy how much love you can feel for someone, honestly. And I think motherhood has definitely kind of brought that out. But I feel that way about all love, though, when I look at my relationship with my husband, and especially my relationship with my little brothers, who up until I had my daughter, were probably the best example of non-romantic love in my life, solely because the love I felt towards them was very much rooted in just loving who they are, just loving them. And regardless of their decisions or what they wanted in life or how that was different from me, I just love them and I appreciate them as they are. And I think that's really big. And for my own part, when it comes to love and feeling loved, I never felt true love, like romantically, until I was with my husband. And even now, I've spoken about this before, I think on my channel and another Try to Get Ready with Me. Really, what makes me feel so happy and secure in my marriage is that I feel accepted with my husband. It's not necessarily gestures or words, the way that I feel loved, and it's the deepest love that I've ever felt from someone else, is that he accepts me for who I am. Period. He does not try to change who I am. He doesn't try to, he doesn't make me feel bad for who I am. He doesn't ever suggest that I should be different. He accepts me so fully, and that has helped me accept myself. And I think everyone should receive that kind of love in their life. Someone who accepts you for who you are, and in turn, that helps you accept yourself. So acceptance, I think, is a really big part of love, because if you're trying to change someone, or if you're not accepting someone for who they are, how can you really be loving them? Because you're not honoring their spirit. You're not honoring what makes them them. And if you don't honor that, then how is that love? People often, I used to think it was the stupidest thing for people to say. This was a big trope in movies for a while of like, oh, you don't love me, you love the idea of me, which is so silly when you think about it, right? But it actually makes sense because, sometimes I think people fall in love with the idea of what they think a relationship could be or what they think someone could be. And that's not really loving that person or loving that relationship. That's loving some alternate version that maybe you've created in your head. So I think love and acceptance are big things. To be loved and to love someone, there has to be acceptance of who that person is genuinely and authentically. That was such a good question. Thank you. The next question, how many children do you have? What does your family look like? I have one daughter. She is 18 months old, and I have one husband. I don't have two, just one. We have a very large extended family. I have I have two brothers, two parents, and I'm lucky that I still have 3 living grandparents. So we have pretty large extended families. My husband does as well. Cece wants to know if I was always a Southern gal. Oh no, I just put powder on my lids, but I want to use cream shadow. It'll be fine. I only put a little bit. We're going to be okay here today. I just want to use cream shadows because I have been obsessed with the Laura Mercier caviar sticks lately, you guys. Like, there's not even enough words, but I'm gonna bring them up pretty high today since we're doing this 90s inspired look. So I am gonna do my brows first. But anyway, back to Cece's question. Cece asked, always a Southern gal? Yes, I was born and raised in North Carolina. My dad's family has been in North Carolina for many generations since they came from Scotland. I don't know how they ended up, it's really funny. Where I'm from in North Carolina was mostly settled by people from Scotland or Ireland, and my family somehow just managed to keep marrying more Scottish people on my dad's side. So they've been in North Carolina for a really long time, and that's where I was born and raised, and I lived my entire life. I did move to New York City for about 18 months when I was 19, and then I moved back to North Carolina to finish college, and that is where I lived until I got married and moved here to Delaware. It's funny because I know North Carolina is the South, but I've definitely always thought of North Carolina as just being North Carolina. I think it's so specific to itself. That might just be my bias. But funny enough, I recently learned that North Carolina has one of the most diverse sets of accents in the country. Like, as far as each state goes, North Carolina has more like regional dialects and accents than most states because there's just such a diverse history of immigration to the state, of people, or not immigration, but migration and the different groups that migrated. So you have a lot of very different accents, which I think makes sense as to why I myself feel this way. And I know several of you from North Carolina, so let me know if you too have experienced this. Anytime I watch a movie and people are supposed to be from North Carolina, a good example is Kiss the Girls. If you've ever seen that movie, I always feel like the accent is wrong. I never feel like people get the accent right. I just feel like they're trying to like, I don't know what they're trying to go for. A lot of times, like in Kiss the Girls, it really felt like they were going for like a Savannah accent or something, like a low country accent. And I don't hear that accent a lot in North Carolina. So I was very confused by that movie. And I've just seen that happen a lot, that people seem to not quite understand the nuances and just how diverse the state of North Carolina is, because it is a very, very diverse state. If you can't tell, I really love North Carolina. It was my first love. While we're on the subject of states, I was also asked, what state would you love to live in one day? I really love Delaware right now, I'm gonna be honest. It's a very small state. It's less than 1 million people. So it feels very homey, and I enjoy that because I'm from a very, very tiny place in North Carolina. So I feel very at home, that things are pretty small here, but I also enjoy that there's a lot of access to things. Like I can get to Philadelphia in like 40 minutes, less than 40 minutes. I can get to Washington, D.C. pretty quickly. We can go to New York City, doesn't take that long. It's just really a great place to live, and the school systems are really great here. The quality of life is really good here. It's very safe. I'm a big fan of Delaware right now. That being said, with everything that's gone on in the past year, it's definitely made me miss being closer to family. So if we could maybe one day split our time between North Carolina and Puerto Rico, which I think would be like our dream goal to do one day, that would be great, because I'm from North Carolina and most of my family lives there. And my husband, just like I was born and raised in North Carolina my whole life, my husband was born and raised in Puerto Rico his whole life. He didn't move here until after college. So most of his family is there. And if we could, be able to somehow divide our time, I think that would be ideal for us. But for right now, we're really happy here in Delaware. How did you meet your husband? My husband and I met at a horse show. So I've had horses my entire life. My husband has had horses his entire life. And it was funny because we had definitely been at horse shows together before we met. Like we had been in the same place at the same time, but we're 14 years apart in age. And we just never really crossed paths. So one day we were at a horse show, and by chance we were introduced. And I thought he was flirting with me. He maintains he wasn't. So we got off to an interesting start. I thought he was flirting. He says he wasn't. That's okay. And we happened to run into each other again a few months later. And we just kind of hit it off and started up a friendship. So it was kind of fate, I guess. I got one more question that would kind of apply to my husband. It's, how do you know if someone is the one? I don't know if it's the same for everyone, to be honest. For me, like I said, I met my husband and, we became friendly. We would talk, we would have conversations on the phone. And then the first time that we actually got to like hang out and have a meal together and spend some time together face to face, just the two of us, I just knew. Like I immediately knew. I was like, okay, this is the person this is the person. This is my person. This is where I'm supposed to be, period. Again, I don't know if that's how it is for everyone. I only know for myself. So who knows? That could be very different for other people. I've never really asked anyone that, so I don't actually know. I guess I could ask my parents, but I feel like that would not be the answer my parents would have. So I'm sure it's different for everyone, but for me, it was just, I knew. That being said, I'm very much a gut-based person. I'm an Enneagram 9. I'm an INFJ. If you know MBTI, I'm a Cancer. I'm a gut person. When I know, I know. I don't necessarily know how I know, but I just get a feeling right under my sternum, I think, and I know. A couple people asked what my career was like before YouTube. I've talked about working for Chanel before, so a couple people asked about that. So I'm gonna kind of answer those questions in like one little section here. So I still have a full-time job. So right out of college, my first job, I was a rep for Chanel Beauty, like Chanel makeup skincare lines, fragrance, makeup skincare fragrance. And I did that for a little bit before I went into marketing for financial services. Marketing is what I went to college for, and I went into the financial sector with that. Basically, I work for a major bank. I've worked for a couple major banks in my career, and I work in marketing for them. I do still work full-time, so that actually answers a couple questions that I got, which one was, what did you do before YouTube? And the second was, what are your hobbies? I still work full-time, so right now, this channel is my hobby. It takes up most of my free time that's not spent working my full-time job or hanging out with my daughter, because I like to spend a lot of time with her. She's in a very fun age, and she's like my favorite person ever right now. So I'm very organized with my time because I want to make sure that I'm fully enjoying her. But my YouTube channel is really my hobby right now because I enjoy it so much. And I was also asked why I started a channel and how I started a channel. So I've wanted to start a channel for like 10 years before I actually started last March. I went through a really hard time in like 2010. I just went through a really, really hard time in my life. And my escape became basically looking through makeup books and doing makeup looks. And then when YouTube came along, I would watch YouTube videos. And for so long, I really wanted to have my own channel, but I was always really worried what people would think. I don't know. I was always really worried that, you know, people would make fun of me, or I don't know why I was so worried about what other people think, but I think that's a pretty normal thing that happens to people. Nothing to be ashamed of there. So I finally, after 10 years, kind of got over that. I think it was just a lot of therapy, and I got a question about perfectionism because I have mentioned before, and I think on my website, Beauty Biography, I have a bio of myself, and I mention that I'm a recovering perfectionist. And again, it's just a lot of therapy has helped me kind of get over that. I think a little bit of it comes with age, and really what I've learned is that for me, if I'm authentic to myself and I make decisions that are true to who I am and I focus on my integrity, for me, that kind of helps shield me from caring so much about what other people think, because as long as I can feel proud of who I am and the way I conduct myself and the decisions I make, what is there to care about what other people think? They don't have to live with me, you know? The people that I care about support me and accept me. And again, I think that plays so much into just where I am in life with my marriage and having someone that loves me and accepts me for who I am. And I also feel that way in my relationships with my parents and my brothers. I feel like at times, you know, I went through really hard times, like I said, when I was about 20, and then in my early 20s, also my brother was deployed, and that was a really hard time for me and my mental health. It was very difficult. And so there was a time when I don't think I made the best decisions, and so I wasn't proud of who I was, and it was hard for me to accept myself. And now that I'm in a place where I know that, you know, even if I make mistakes, which everyone does, I still know that I, work on myself. I try to make the right choices, and I try to authentically live my life as my authentic self, not trying to be something that I'm not. Now that I have realized the benefits of that, and now that that's the way I live my life, I don't care as much what other people think. So that's how I got over perfectionism, was realizing, you know what? My best is good enough. Even if my best is not perfect, I am living my life as my true self, and that's the most that anyone can ask of me, and that's the most that I can ask of myself. Because for me, a lot of my perfectionism and putting off YouTube was on feeling like things had to be perfect because I held myself to that standard. And now that I realize, you know what? I don't require perfection of myself. I just require progress. I just require growth. It's a lot easier. And to just circle back on, why I started YouTube or why I wanted to, I think a lot of it was just the community of it. I love the community aspect of YouTube, especially when it first started. Because I remember being here, like watching YouTube videos at the beginning of kind of the beauty YouTube. Back in 2010, like I remember the very beginning, and there was such a community feel. And I think that that's still out there. If you cultivate it, I think you attract what you put out there. So I think that that's still there. And, I think a lot about why I was so drawn to makeup and, why I would sit there for hours when I was just going through the worst time of my life, just reading through makeup books and trying to do my makeup and washing it off and redoing it. And I think about it and I realized that for me, there was just so much ugliness in the world, and there still is, that I like to focus on the beauty of it. And I like to focus on not only the outer beauty, but the inner beauty, and just being a kind person and a nice person. And I don't know, if I can put that out into the world, if I can put out a video and be kind and put out positive energy, then, that's all I could ask for. Another question that stood out to me was, do you have any regrets? No, I do not. I do not have regrets. I've actually always kind of been this way. I remember even as young as like 10, 11, thinking, you really can't regret things in life, because if you end up somewhere where you're happy, then whatever you did, if you would have done it differently, you might be somewhere else. So I've actually never been big on regret. I don't know. It's funny because I think sometimes that would seem really antithetical to someone who is like myself, who's very anxious person, very much a recovering perfectionist. You would think that I would just have a laundry list of regrets, but nope. I love my life. I wouldn't want to change it. And I very much believe, I'm not sure where that idea got put in me. I think it's something my dad maybe kind of instilled in me. I really think that every little thing you do, any small thing could change your life. You don't even realize all the different things and that can affect a life. That's why I truly believe that. It's one of the reasons why I fail at this sometimes, but I genuinely try my hardest to only be kind to people, because I think that you don't know, you have an effect on the people that you come into contact with, that you meet. You have an effect on the energy around you. And if you choose to be negative or nasty, you're having a negative impact on other people, whether you realize it or not. And I just never would want to be someone that is having a negative effect on people. So I think that every little thing gets you where you are. And if you're happy where you are, then what is there to regret? And if you're not happy where you are, regret's not going to get you anywhere either. The only thing that's going to change the place you're in is looking inward and thinking, okay, what steps can I take now to get me somewhere where I am going to be happy where I'm at? The next question I got was, if it's not too personal, how did you lose weight? So I have mentioned in my last Try to Get Ready With Me, I think at that time I had lost like 25 pounds. I'm happy to answer this question. I do want to preface it a little bit, because I think that weight can sometimes be such a negative you know what I mean? It can just sometimes be so negative the way that we talk about it, not anyone in particular, but just society itself, I guess. So I do want to just preface this by saying that I was definitely overweight when I started trying to lose weight. I just didn't feel good. I didn't feel healthy. I didn't feel like myself. My whole life I had been, pretty slim, I would say. I have a pretty small frame. Myself, I didn't feel good. I did not feel healthy. I had never put on extra weight until I got pregnant with my daughter. And the thing is, I'm such an anxious person, and again, can be such of a perfectionist, that I decided really early into my pregnancy that I didn't want to I didn't want to focus on my weight. I just didn't want to do it because I knew that it would probably be very detrimental to my mental health. I knew I would probably fixate on it. So I decided to just ignore it completely. That worked for me. I'm still happy with that decision because pregnancy was awful for me. And I think if I would have been beating myself up about my weight, I wouldn't have been happy, you know? My obstetrician, my midwife were always good with my weight. So as long as they were good, I was good, and I didn't worry about it or focus on it. And I am still happy with that decision. That being said, after about a year after my daughter turned a year old, I didn't fixate on it at all. I wasn't like, oh, I have to bounce back. I think just kind of put it on the side because I was like, you know what? I'm not in a place to deal with that emotionally and mentally. So I'm not going to do something to myself that doesn't feel healthy. So when my daughter was about a year old, I decided, okay, I'm ready to start losing weight because I just don't feel good. I just did not feel good at all. I was really uncomfortable physically. I wasn't in a good place with that. It didn't feel good. And I was like, you know what? I'm mentally in a good place now. So let's do this. And what I did was I spoke with my doctor because I wanted to be sure that I was doing something that was healthy, because since when I started losing weight, I was still breastfeeding, not exclusively, obviously, because my daughter was over a year old, but I was still breastfeeding. I just wanted to be sure that I was being healthy. So I did speak with my doctor to make sure that the plan I wanted to do was going to work and was going to be healthy. And what we landed on was I count calories 5 days a week. So 5 days a week, I have an app. It's called Lose It, and I count my calories 5 days a week on that app. On that app, you put in your height and your weight, and it tells you how many calories to eat per day to lose either 1 pound a week, 1.5 pounds a week, or 2 pounds a week, which is where my doctor came in, because my doctor said 1.5 pounds would be, that's the healthiest, like 1.5 or 1. But obviously, you know, a lot of people don't want to just go as slow as 1 pound. So she said, go with, 1.5. She wouldn't recommend going with 2. She felt it would be a little too restrictive. So I went with the 1.5 pound a week option. So the app tells you how many calories to eat in a day to lose 1.5 pounds a week. And I count them 5 days a week. And what I found is after a few weeks of counting them 5 days a week, pretty much on the weekends, sometimes I would just check to see, like, just for fun, like, okay, let me put this in and see, did I go way over or not? And what I realized was that I was basically eating to my fill. I was eating to satisfaction, and I was not really, most days on the weekends when I wasn't counting calories, I still was kind of staying within my calorie range for the most part. So it kind of just really helped me with portion sizes, and also making sure that I was eating a variety of different food groups and things like that. I think there's probably definitely a right way and a wrong way to do that. And it might be that doesn't work for some people, the calories. There's things like Weight Watchers, which is somewhat similar, but also takes into account the different food groups. And for me, I just realized, counting calories 5 days a week, just making sure that I'm getting a variety of fruits, vegetables, lean proteins. Like for me, for example, I feel best when I don't eat red meat 2 days in a row. I'll probably eat red meat like once a week. I don't like to eat it more than that. I find that I do better that way. I feel better. And so really sitting there and listening to my body, being more conscious when I am eating a meal, those things really helped. So a lot of it was, just trying to focus on being conscious about what feels good to me. And it's worked really well because I genuinely feel better. And for me, it's really exciting for me to see the amount of weight that I've lost on the scale. But most weeks I don't even weigh myself because I just can tell that I feel better. I feel better. My clothes fit better. I feel like I have way more energy. It's a lot easier for me to get up in the morning. It's a lot easier for me to go to bed at night. It's just really helped me to focus on kind of more how I feel, which I think is where waiting was really helpful, because again, I think if I would have said, okay, I'm going to start trying to lose weight right now, immediately after I gave birth, I was not in the right place for that. And I think I really would have been approaching it from a more restrictive, more self-deprecating perspective versus I'm taking care of myself because I want to be healthy. I want to enjoy running around with my daughter. I want to be here for a long time. I want to be able to enjoy many, many years with my family. Looking at it from that perspective and how I feel has just been amazing. So that's how I've lost the weight that I've lost. I still want to lose a little bit more, but again, it's more at this point, it's more that I want to start exercising. I have not been exercising, and I own a Peloton, so I need to exercise. I used to exercise before I was pregnant, and then I was just so scared when I got pregnant. I was so scared of doing anything because I thought, oh my God, like what if I overexert myself and something happens to my baby? My anxiety really kicked in, and I did not want to risk anything, which, just so you know, it's really not a risk, but I just couldn't, mentally, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it mentally. So I didn't. So now my goal is definitely that I want to start exercising a few times a week, because I do want to be in better shape. I want to do that for my heart. I want to be able to be here for my daughter, for my husband. I want to be healthy and I want to feel good. One thing I really find important to say, if you do decide to go the same route with calories, one, I would definitely ask your doctor if they think that's a good plan for you and what they think your goal should be as far as how many pounds to lose a week. Again, my doctor and I settled on 1.5 pounds, and it was very helpful for me to have that conversation. So just definitely do that. Have that conversation if you can. I know that right now it's hard to go in person, but you can 100% set up a telehealth visit for that. And I really would. And the second thing is that I count calories, but I do not go hungry. So if I get to the end of the day and for whatever reason, maybe I had a calorie dense lunch that wasn't very filling. So I get to the end of the day and I'm still hungry and I don't have a lot of calories left, I will just try to eat something healthy. But if it goes over the calories, that's okay. The number one thing is that this is about my body and keeping my body healthy and functioning, because my body houses my spirit and my soul, and that's what it's here to do, is to perform a function, and I want it to do so healthily. It is not about restricting myself or punishing myself. So I 100%, if I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat, period. I don't care what an app tells me. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but oh my gosh, it was Miss Robbie Lou that asked that. I hope she's okay with me saying that. And she was sweet enough to be like, if it's not too personal about the weight thing, which was lovely, because yeah, I know some people don't like to talk about those things, and I completely understand that. I'm not someone that's uncomfortable talking about it. I guess the reason my answer is so long-winded is because I never want to contribute to an unhealthy standard or idea about weight loss, if that makes sense. I just don't. I think that the way that women are, I think the messages we send women, especially women after they have children, are just horrific. And I know in my heart of hearts that if I would have gone into trying to lose weight right after I had my daughter, I was dealing with a lot of postpartum anxiety. I had baby blues. I never had postpartum depression, but I definitely had like the 2-week hormonal, overwhelming depression that is called baby blues, because it's short-lived. It's only for a couple weeks. When it goes past that, it's postpartum depression. Anyway, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm just saying I was dealing with a lot. And I think even if you don't deal with postpartum anxiety or depression or baby blues, you're still dealing with such a monumental life change that the idea that there is any pressure on women whatsoever to bounce back is so disgusting to me. Like, your body is your business, period. It is no one else's business. That's it. Your body does not hurt anyone else. So yeah, I just wanted to be really careful with my words. So I'm sorry that answer was so long-winded, but I never want to contribute to a toxic culture when it comes to women's bodies. All right, so last one, we're going to end with a really fun one. It is, what are some of your favorite classic movies? Definitely, I don't know why I try to talk when I'm doing my lip liner. Let's do lip liner real quick, and then we'll get to that question. I'll fast forward through it. So one of my very favorite classic movies is The Sound of Music. I was devastated when Christopher Plummer recently passed away. That movie is one of my dad's favorites, so I grew up watching that movie, and I mean, what's not to love? You've got a musical, you've got a wonderful message about the fact that Nazis are bad, which who would have ever thought that that would be a controversial position again? Also, it's Lent right now, so I'm reminded of the movie The Ten Commandments. It's where Charlton Heston plays Moses. That is one of my favorite old movies. I absolutely love that movie. We watch it every Good Friday. I love it. It's got like just the most 1950s effects, especially when Moses parts the Red Sea. But it's so good. It's such a good movie. I absolutely love watching that movie. I like McClintock is another favorite of mine. It's a Western, a comedy Western that has John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara. Oh, love Maureen O'Hara. Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. I recently spoke about that one in my Marilyn Monroe beauty biography. That is like one of the cutest movies. I absolutely adore that movie. I remember they used to play old movies on the TV in the lobby of the hair salon I went to when I lived in North Carolina. And I absolutely would love when I would walk in and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes was on. It's just such a good movie. Everything about that movie is so fun. I like a lot of old suspense and thriller movies like Cape Fear with Gregory Peck and Robert Mitchum. Oh my gosh, that one is so good. My husband prefers the remake, and that really upsets me because I am usually not a big fan of when they remake old movies. Like Ocean's 11 was perfect. Why did you mess with it? Rear Window, Dial M for Murder, loved Psycho. I'm just a big Hitchcock fan. As problematic as he could be, I really love his suspense films. I remember so vividly the first time that I watched Psycho. And I just remember that I was like so scared, but also like, wow, this is like a different kind of scare. Like, this is so intelligent. This is so intelligent. I mean, I was like 13 and I was like, wow, finally I can get on board with something. I was a very odd child. I love the movie Pillow Talk, Doris Day, Rock Hudson. That was my most recent beauty biography, was Doris Day. Absolutely adore the movie Pillow Talk. There's a really cute, lesser known movie that I would highly recommend if you like classic movies. It's one of Cary Grant's later films. It's called Walk, Don't Run. It is so absolutely adorable. There's so many, and I feel like I'm definitely going to leave some out. The Philadelphia Story with Katharine Hepburn, but my favorite Katharine Hepburn movie is Bringing Up Baby. Hepburn and Grant, man, they don't make them like Cary Grant anymore. I tell you what. It's sad that they don't, because that's a celebrity that other people think is attractive that I agree with. Cary Grant, he was a fine man. I absolutely adore the blush that I used. This was my first time using this color. It was from Daniel Sandler. I love the watercolor cheek colors. These are so nice. And this is the shade Cherub, and it was just perfect for this look. I feel so in love with this. So this was the final. We're not like exact. She's definitely more tan than I am, but I feel like we got the spirit of it. 100% we got the spirit. So I am excited. And we've got the 90s fluffy hair, which I'm so happy that that is coming back. I want to thank everyone who submitted questions. If I didn't get to your question, I'm so sorry. I was actually really excited at how many I got. I tried to cover as many as I could, but if I missed yours, then I will do another one of these soon. So I'll put another little story up on Instagram and probably something in the community tab here on YouTube. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you should definitely go do that. I post stories and little like fun like Q&As and things like that over there. So it's a good time. I hope to see you next time. Until then, you take care of yourself. Bye.